You're listening to the Fan2Fan Podcast, and on this episode, we continue talking about physical media, and specifically, we get into what happens with all of your movies and CDs once you pass on. Someone's got to take care of it. Maybe someone's got to move it. How do you address that? We talk about special editions, and we talk about video games and how physical media, digital, has affected the video gaming industry. Here we go. Welcome back to the Fan2Fan Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Bertie Gonzalez. With me, as always, fellow co-host Pete Charbonneau. And because we've been talking about physical media for the last few episodes, it made sense to bring back Michele, Brittany, and Nick Dyack. We love having them on. Authors, pop culture scholars, fellow podcasters. Anytime we chat with them, we can certainly see that they have shelves filled with movies, books, comics, games, art books, crafts. So much cool stuff. And I think their perspectives are going to be maybe different, certainly different than some of the folks that have talked about physical media in the last few episodes because of their interest. So both Nick and Michele do academic research into media. Michele is into lost films, and we've actually had a few episodes where she's talked about some of those films that are literally lost in time. Nick has a speciality in sword and sandal films, especially Italian sword and sandal films. And certainly some of those films are not easy to come by. So having physical copies to watch, to do what he does, to do analyses, can't be that easy. And I think, Pete, as we just continue to talk to different folks about physical media, it's just kind of interesting to see it through their eyes. And speaking of, Michele, let's start with you. What's your relationship with physical media?
My folks collected. So like my dad collected albums, like he was really into music. So he had a lot of albums. I think with my mom, she was more the books. So I definitely got the pack rat. But I'm going to say, I started curating early, a lot of books and a lot of music. And then as movies became more important to me, it wasn't until in my 20s when we started coming out with the VHS, because that was my era, so I was collecting VHS. And then naturally when we went to DVD and you could have more, and definitely, continued the collection of books and the collection of movies, and definitely, going to school, working on my master's, working in early cinema. Obviously, I was curating that kind of experience for myself. I don't buy as many movies now because there isn't as much interesting that's coming out. I mean, I do still buy movies, but I find that they're like older movies rather than newer stuff, which is kind of interesting that I buy more of the older stuff. I really am a very tactile person, and now it's definitely more digital, but I'm very much in the tactile because what you have in digital is not real. I mean, it could go away because the powers that be could say, no, you can't have that anymore. I don't like that. So I'm definitely a person that wants to collect and have it available to me.
Your parents for sure gave you an example of people who bought things, who collected things, right? Who enjoyed things. Do you think in some ways like they kind of gave you permission to kind of do that, where they encouraged you to maybe go buy a book or a movie that you enjoyed?
Yeah, definitely, because they didn't enjoy each other all the time. So, collecting their own things was important. But I also, when I was young, I really had trouble reading, so I really shunned reading. But through the gift of like Little House on the Prairie and Little House in the Big Woods and stuff, got me interested in reading. So once I started like reading, my folks were definitely happy that I was trying to read and that I was reading books and buying books. I think it was just kind of in my DNA that I would be kind of that way. I take comfort also in the physical. Sometimes I wish I didn't have this. Like I told Nick, if we move again, I've got to get rid of some books. But
why do you say that?
Because it's heavy as hell.
Yeah, no, if we move again, there's movers. They'll take care of it.
Oh, okay. Then I'm not worried about it. I do feel some concern about how much things that I've collected and whether that's a legacy that Nick is even going to be interested in. Like I know all my Egyptian books, he's not going to give a shit about that.
Hey, I'm right here.
So I have started one, not buying as much. Also, do I really need it? Will it actually give me one, will it help me with research? And two, will it really give me that much pleasure to have? Well, for instance, a book or an album. Will I really, reread that book? Will I really re-listen to an album? So I've become much more particular as I've gotten older. And I do think about what I'm leaving behind and what I don't want him to have to deal with when I pass on.
See, I'm opposite. I can't wait till I kick the bucket and you have to go through all my pinup girl books.
Nick, so fair to say you've got a good amount of stuff too. Were your parents also collectors? Were they similar to Michelle's parents, where they had movies or music?
No, not at all. So before college, I didn't really collect things because, I was, a kid/teenager. I didn't have a local comic book store, so I wasn't buying comics. I didn't need to collect movies because, well, I'm a kid. I don't have, a job to buy stuff, and we got satellite. I didn't start buying music until maybe I was in 11th grade, so I maybe had 5 CDs on me. But this was the period of collectible card games.
At Magic the Gathering's research facility, experts test combat strategies using subjects selected from the general public.
Jeez! Where do you get these kids? Play my card, you moron! I'm unblockable! What are you waiting for? An invitation?
Magic the Gathering, the trading card game.
You ready to feel the pain?
I started collecting Magic the Gathering, but it wasn't just collecting. These were games, so I had their utility. I could do something with them. So yeah, I was buying Magic the Gathering, but they weren't like baseball cards. They just sat there in a folio and that's it. No, at lunchtime at school, I'd get together with, 6 other nerds and we'd play Magic. And when I stopped, playing Magic, I moved on to the Star Trek card game. And then the Star Wars card game. Both of those were from Decipher, and they were awesome. And then I moved back to Magic. So,
and then did you do D&D in there at some point?
Yeah, I did Dungeons and Dragons, but and I would get modules and stuff to play with my brother and other folks. But I don't know if I'd call it collecting it. Really? And it's not like, oh my God, I got to have them all. Mm-hmm. I guess, hobby-wise, I guess you could kind of, maybe, I don't know, not like Magic. Magic where's, that definite, there's this collectible element to it. While other folks were getting Beanie Babies, there was, I need to buy a booster pack of Magic cards. There's probably a rare card in there. I need that rare card, not necessarily for resale value or anything, but that card might be awesome and let me make a cool deck so I could kick some booty at school or something. Mm-hmm. So teenage years was collectible card games for sure for collecting stuff. And then, I went to college, everything I owned could fit in the back of our Zuzu Trooper, so I didn't really have much. College, that's when I kind of got bit by movie watching, watching films and stuff. So what meager money I had went to, I think I had a couple VHS tapes, but, when I got a PlayStation 2, it transitioned to buying DVDs. And so after college, the two things I was kind of collecting were CDs and DVDs. So this was all before streaming. So this would have been 2003, 2004. I didn't do Netflix. I don't think it even exists at that time. But this was the time where I was becoming a film snob. I wanted the Criterion stuff, I was getting into foreign films. And, the only way to get this stuff was to really hunt it down and try to find it. So when I met Michele 2005-ish, I had, a fairly small but, mighty DVD collection that was a lot of Criterions, because that was what I was into. I wanted the art films, and plus, Criterion has this innate collectability to it. Ooh, it's signed and numbered and stuff like that. But then when I went back to school to work on my master's in, film studies, so in Italian films, I think that was really the turning point, because again, this is before streaming, before a lot of, you could get stuff readily. I was doing my academia on Italian films, the Antonio Margheriti films, and the only way to get this stuff was to import it. And so it was for practical reasons that I had to buy movies and buy books because I needed it for the research. So I kind of went all in on physical media, specifically like movies and music. Also, at the same time as this, even before I met Michele, but even after I met Michele, we'd go to comic book conventions. There'd always be like a celebrity or something there. I like getting stuff autographed. Books, movies, music, whatever, a physical piece of media. We would take to conventions and whatnot and have actors, actresses, sometimes free, sometimes, pay your $20 or whatever it is now, have them sign your stuff. When you consume like a media and you really like it and it resounds with you, or you do something with it, and you could take that to someone for them to sign it, I think it adds a little additional element to it, a little personalization, like this is now mine, uniquely mine. And maybe I got to, hear a story from the person signing said media that I wouldn't have otherwise had. Or, sometimes those open up to, friendships and stuff. We've taken stuff to be signed and become friends of people, afterwards and whatnot, of other authors and comic book folks. And a side note, I should underscore that not just physical media, we're also suckers for movies and stuff. It's got to be the limited edition type stuff.
I've seen things you people wouldn't believe. All those moments will be lost in time, like tears in rain.
Blade Runner 30th Anniversary Collector's Edition, coming soon to Blu-ray.
This was really bad during the 2000 and 2010s. I could buy, this re-release of a movie, or I could buy the Blade Runner. There we go. When Blade Runner was re-released in 2013 or something, there's 5 editions of it. They got progressively more ornate, and the big one came in a giant plastic suitcase with all the stuff. Guess which one I went for?
The work print, the director's cut. I remember that one very clearly. I think it even had the origami unicorn.
It had the flying car in it, the origami unicorn, a big digipad. And of course, we went to an autograph show, and they had a little Blade Runner reunion with Sean Young and Joe Turkel, Joe Turkel and a couple other folks. Hey, can you sign my suitcase Blade Runner, set?
Now, I should, since he's saying that story, I should interject. We also collect media that we can't play, like laser discs, and in part because many of them have, if you could open them, if they open, they typically had some sort of essay in there that's hard to get elsewhere. And again, this is stuff you can't get with digital. This is a lot of material that you're never going to see in your digital. You're not going to have your behind the scenes. You're not going to have your featurettes and things like that. You're also not going to have the experience of those wonderful little old clamshells that say their special features is, oh my God, an interactive menu. Or maybe closed captioning. Or maybe a couple of trailers before. These are good things to have because you can see what kind of progress we've made from VHS, if you had a beta, and, all the way up to Blu-ray.
Now, it's not just it's 4K UHD Blu-ray now. That's the other thing is with physical, there's a lot, quite a bit of lost media out there. It is kind of funny to, find out oh, wow, we have a print of a movie that's not just out of print, but actively recalled, destroyed, whatever, because of whatever reason or whatnot. It's effectively lost media, and here we have a copy of it. I should say, I've been thinking about the argument of, physical media, and it's I always have it. Oh, it's always there. But the other thing I do, I play a lot of video games. So I do collect video games. Even though the market for physical media games is tiny. Almost everything is download now. While, 10 years ago, if you bought a game and it came on a disc, you had the game. Well, nowadays, when you buy a game on a disc, what you really have is a partial game. They ship that disc of a broken, buggy, incomplete game that, the day one patch will correct. So I feel bad because, I have, Xbox games and whatnot that I feel like if I were to put them back in, they wouldn't even work, because even though I have a physical copy, it's right there. I could see the ones and zeros right on the disc. It should work. I think a lot of that stuff is gone, unless you go to Steam or Good Old Games or whatever and buy it through there. So it's like the one like kind of media format that having a physical copy doesn't save you in a way.
And there's like stuff like off of that, like instruction manuals, like that used to be a thing that don't really exist anymore. Like I was privileged enough back in a former life when I was working for an ad agency in Boston. We partnered with Guitar Hero. They were doing a special edition Aerosmith version, and because Aerosmith is a Boston band, I got to help contribute to some of the design of the instruction manual for that. So like that was cool. And then I remember even when I was younger playing on the Commodore 64, there was Sid Meier's Pirates. The instruction manual for that game was like a mini book. And it was not only an instruction manual, it had a ton of historical facts. I used to I remember taking that on the plane with me to go visit my grandparents in Florida and bringing the manual with me just to read it for fun. Talk about something that's like a disappeared art and disappeared physical media. Like you don't find it, there's no need for those anymore.
That's a good point, because we bought the game books. We we got the limited edition, hardcover type books, and we've got quite a few. And it's kind of sad to, if we go to like Half Price Books or some of the others, and I'll pass by and I'll see all these older, books that you could buy as walkthroughs. And of course now most of that's all online if you can find it. Oh, well, how do I get this? It's more question and answer, like a Reddit format.
There was something special in the 90s of your parents took you to the store and you bought a Nintendo game or a Sega game or whatever. And on that ride home, you bust it open and whip out that instruction booklet and you just absorb it all in. So when you get home, you're one, ready to go. But two, that was part of the experience was, these awesome instruction manuals that had additional art, not just how to play, additional story.
Yeah, you get like that, just that little bit of lore. But like if you were a creative type, or if you had like a good imagination, that's really all you needed to be like, oh, okay, so now I'm realizing this world. So when you're playing it, you can immerse yourself a little bit more. It didn't take much, a couple of paragraphs to do it.